Well, good evening to you. And before we came on the air, we actually had a comment from Mel Carey, the hardest working man in sports for Flash Media Sports. So, hello, Mel. How are you? And thanks for chiming in. But welcome, episode 161 of the other side of the ball. Dub, Chris, Corey, coming to you live as the countdown continues to where we have numbers 19 through 11. Then next week, the top 10 of 2025.
Well, wait a minute.
And
Are we really going to be doing it the night before Thanksgiving?
that's a good question. I don't know.
Stay tuned.
It is to be determined. But
Yes.
nonetheless, happy Wednesday. We got some rain out here in the valley the last night, and it's been cloudy today. But supposedly the rains will be returning this week here in the Vegas Valley. Mr. Hammond, how are things going in the very green garden state of New Jersey?
Things are well. Um, Much colder out here than I'm sure you guys are used to for November. But
I don't know. What's the temperature?
it is 43.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it really isn't that bad.
No.
It gets worse. Definitely other places. I'm sure at night it gets cold out there.
Yeah, it's 49
But that
this
is
morning
your
when I got
AccuWeather forecast brought to you by the Other Side of the Ball podcast.
up. Well, and it rained this afternoon, so is what it is.
But we do have some league news to announce. The fans have spoken, and these are your 2025 A7FL winners for 2025. Obviously, I mean, it was all but over but the choir, but of course, another MVP to add to the mantle of one
Oh, you should
Sterry
have started
Condrick.
with Rookie of the Year.
I'm going down the list of how it is. So just
I know.
okay.
Bear with you.
Um, of course, Sterry Condrick, another MVP, adding another championship for the Trent BIC. His teammate, Kason Campbell, quite obvious. Offensive Player of the Year. Danye Lyons getting Defensive Player of the Year for the Insomniacs. Anthony Service winning Offensive Rookie of the Year for the Eastern Renegades. Obviously, it seemed like it was no doubt, but Prime Shannon Allen, the Defensive Rookie of the Year for the Insomniacs. And Special Teams Player of the Year goes to the one and only the legendary Hollywood Ashante Worthy. So, congratulations to those fine gentlemen.
And
Winning.
shout outs to Danye Lyons. I think any award we give that young man is well deserved. But I'm just gonna hot take maybe, and fans, let me know in the comments, how much you agree or disagree. But this this league fumbles defensive player of the year in, year out. 2 years ago, 2023, that was AJ McQuaig's award, and they gave it to my buddy Isaac Negron. Shout out to Isaac Negron. Last year, completely fumbled, and this year a Trey Baskerville, opportunity maybe. A lot of people that insiders in the league were kind of leaning heavily towards that way. And again, no shade, no disrespect to Danye Lyons, but that same player that built the reputation, I think it would be more accurately said that he got smoked in the championship game as opposed to the lockdown that we expect from him. Right? I think it's definitely a hyperbole to say that he was getting smoked on the defensive side of the
Well,
ball.
here's the thing. Now, the Defensive Player of the Year award came down between him and his teammate Prime Shannon Allen. This is how
Based on
close.
fan voting, by the way, right?
True,
So this is
true,
a popularity
true,
contest, and
true.
hypothetically, it is what it is. But I
But
don't know, guys. I don't know.
but it was very close. Danye Lyons had 31.58%. Shannon Allen had 30.57%. So that was really, really, really close vote as far as
Yeah, that
Defensive
does
Player of the
sound.
Year.
That is a really close go. Who was
Okay.
third? Who was the non? Insomniacs jumping on and voting for their buddy. Who was the non guy that wasn't them? Because I'll be honest, 2 years ago, if we go fan vote, then same logic. Drizzy Pope from the formerly known as the Kin City Chaos. He won a fan vote, but
Well,
who was third?
to answer your question, it was Robert Long from the Silk Sea Animals with 13.97% of the vote.
Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, I guess we were way off on what the fans thought, because and for fans of this show, if you want a full breakdown of the guys that were up for the awards that were given out by the league on the fan vote, you could check out previous episodes of Other Side of the Ball where we broke it down granularly for an hour and a half, gave you guys our picks, and shouted out all the honorable mentions. But
All right.
yeah, I think the league did a great job with every single one of those. I think Other Side of the Ball, when we decided, the only ones that I think that went against us were offensive rookie and defensive player of the year. So we were pretty close, I guess.
Well,
Wait, who was offensive rookie of the year?
Service. I think we either said
Anthony
Stone King or
Service.
Richardson.
Yeah,
So,
would agree.
But Service had a good year.
Yeah, he did.
Yes. Well, actually, to be honest, wait a minute. Now, if we're looking at well, I mean, okay. Hold on. Let me go back here. If I'm looking at this right, hold on. Okay, they did it by offensive defensive because if it was going off by just overall rookie, which looking at this article it is, because they do not have offensive or defense, it's just overall rookie of the year. And if it's going off of overall rookie of the year, it's Shannon Allen in a landslide. But they did offensive rookie and defensive rookies. Okay, but anyways, the special teams player was quite interesting because
Yes.
Ashanti
And
Worthy got the win.
for the
Ashanti
fee,
had
it's going if we're
36.60%
paying
of
for
the vote,
everything, it's $182.05.
had 33.83%. So that was a very close between Prime and Ashanti Worthy for special teams player of the year. But again, you can see the fan vote and all the stuff on A7FL.com. In addition to the schedule for 2025 is up and running. We talked about some of the matchups in week one as it stands for now, but just to give you a recap of what's going on March 15th, it is Vegas OTT against the Silver State Stealth. That's our first game that matter for Chris and myself. QC Crush and the Virginia Heathens, that's in Maryland. DC Buzz making the trip to the Dirty South to take on the debuting Atlanta Inferno in their first season in the A7FL, and hopefully we will get Atlanta's owner on the show so we can talk about why Atlanta decided to get into the game. Hopefully that will come up sooner than later.
And who's on this team?
Of course, the Hunters will make the trip down to Los Angeles to take on the Compton Accelerators as LA throws its name back in. Of course, the three matchups perhaps most talked about in week one. Insomniac's Sick-Witted Part 3 as far as regular season matchups go. Or should I say Part 4 anyway. BIC and the U as BIC goes in defense of their title. And perhaps maybe the sexy matchup of week one, the Renegades taking on the Animals. Of course, BIC and U and Renegades in Silk City will take place in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Hunters and Accelerators in LA. Of course, Sick-Witted and the Insomniacs. And Over the Top in Silver State take place in LA or in Las Vegas at Matter Academy.
Well, I, for one, can't wait until March 15th. I'm looking forward to pretty much all the games that you just mentioned, Dub, along with some other games back on the East Coast. Excuse me. And I want to find out how some of these rosters are going to be filled out, especially with the Silver State Stealth playing against our guys OTT, knowing that a bunch of the OTT players were on the Stealth last year.
That's going to be interesting to see the rosters for those two particular staffs when we get rosters when the season approaches. Again, March 15th is where you will see it all unfold again. As can the Insomniacs trying to make it 3 and 4 years? Can the BIC finally do something that they have not done, which is repeat as champions? Will the Patterson U have one last stand? Will the Renegades up their game after a vastly much improved 2025? Can the Animals become that upper echelon of the Northeast, perhaps replacing the U? Or
Can Watchmen have a bounce back year?
if the Watchmen return, can the Watchmen finally get over that hump? Can Sigwid, with their great showing against the champions, can they finally
Yes.
ascend into that level of championship form? A lot of storylines going into 2026. You don't want to miss it, starting March 15th on A7FL.tv. And of course,
Crazy.
the two most important thing is who will be Corey Hammond's broadcast colleague, and where is Corey Hammond going to play in 2026? Also, two important things going into 2026.
Well, I'm surprised Black Baby Jesus, as he likes to refer to himself as, hasn't chimed in yet.
I'm sure he will.
I give him about another 5 minutes, and I'm sure we'll get something from him. But anywho's how. Well, I guess we should jump into the 19 through 11. I know that sounds a little weird, but that's what we're going to do because we're going to save the top 10 for either next week or the week after. As you guys know, next Wednesday is the day before Thanksgiving. A lot of things going on in the evening time, and I'm sure that there's going to be, I got family coming in that night.
It's my first Thanksgiving off in 16 years. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Really?
I'm so used to working on Thanksgiving. It's rare that I'll actually have the day off.
Well, that league that you guys talk about. Well, I was going to say that league that you guys sometimes talk about when you're talking that ish. Well, they're not really giving you a choice, Dub. You're going to watch the Lions and Cowboys. That's every year. So, good luck. Enjoy.
But Mr. Hammond, if you could please give us a recap of last week's entrances into the top 50 from 29 to 20.
Yeah, so if we're gonna have to get a compiled list in like maybe a short, or somebody can clip me doing the thing, so we can have somewhere a place where people can go and get the reference of the full list. But to save us a little bit of time, I'm really only gonna do 29 through 20 as a previously on the other side of the ball. Number 29, Zuriel Wright, wide receiver from the Hawks. Number 28, Josiah Sow, offensive lineman, sick with it. Number 27, Oos, Big Wes, offensive line, Insomniacs. Number 26, same team, different name, Moses Smith, defensive end. Maybe our defensive rookie of the year, maybe not. I don't know. I think we'll just go with Prime. Number 25, the actual defensive player of the year, although I disagree, just this year, Danye Lyons, cornerback, Insomniacs. Number 24. There's a lot of defensive player of the year talk. Isaac Negron, a two-time defensive player of the year and a defensive end from BIC. Number 23. The rookie, Damon Smalls, the athlete from the Renegades. Number 22. Skylar Lash, BIC offensive lineman. Number 21. The offensive rookie of the year, Anthony Service from the Renegades. And number 20. Ahead of him on the list, but not the offensive rookie of the year, Canyon Stone King, quarterback from Sick-Wit-It. So that's number 29 through 20. Guys, bringing us to number 19. This guy's related to you. This guy's related to you, Chris. I think you should maybe introduce him.
Yeah,
yes, he is. It is the son of Krypton.
Try to wear his jersey one time, and it just wasn't working out. But he is a good kid, someone that I do care about a lot, one Trey Robinson. I still wish you were here in Vegas, brother, but that's all right.
If I'm
Number
not mistaken,
19,
if I'm
Trey
not mistaken,
Robinson.
he is the only man to win a championship on both coasts.
He
And
is.
he went from coast to other coast and then back again to the same coast that he
Same
started
coast. Yep. And he is also one of the few players that has won championships now, not nationally, but won championships as a running back and a quarterback.
Well, and I think when it comes to Trey Robinson, it's a 2-year process for him to get here on the list for BIC. I remember the post Insomniacs championship offseason, and I'm not really breaking any, solidarity here by kind of going into the specifics, but Trey and I had conversations in that offseason on where he should go because he had made it clear that he was leaving not only the Insomniacs, which wasn't necessarily like a messy divorce, but kind of a kibbutzy, we'll say, to use the Yiddish term, kibbutz. There was some kibitzing going back and forth, so he left the Insomniacs, but he was also planning to leave Vegas, and he kind of didn't know where he was going to go. The original place that he was talking about going was to Ohio to play with the Kin City Chaos. They forfeited the name Sin. But he was going to play quarterback for that team, and it was going to be, in my opinion, a storyline that seemed amazing, just from a media standpoint, to have a guy from Vegas go to legitimize the team that he beat and shellacked from Ohio at they would have added a legitimate threat at the quarterback position, and Keno Thomas could have done the thing where we expected him to. Blah blah blah. The story goes on, but instead of doing that, which was kind of the thing he had committed to early in that offseason, he then goes, well, K-Wax in my DMs. I think I'm going to just go play. I'm going to go live at my old home in Pennsylvania and play with BIC, which on paper sounds interesting. But I'll be honest with you guys. The conversation that I had with Trey after he showed up at BIC was that he wasn't sure he made the right decision because it was a very similar lateral move going from role player on the Insomniacs to role player on BIC. Now, fast forward, you go from a team to a team, basically same situation. And this is a guy, Trey Robinson, sorry, this is a really long answer, but I think it's just really interesting. This is a guy, Trey Robinson, that when he was on the Pit Bosses, talked about how he didn't want to join the best. He wanted to beat the best. He wanted to compete against the best. And it was really interesting that he went from, best team on paper to one of the best teams on paper and kind of was stuck in a similar role that first year with BIC. But he kind of just stuck to it, earned the trust of the guys that he'd never played with before. And in his first season with BIC, basically just a utility knife doing whatever they asked of him. He earned their trust to be their feature running back. And although he wasn't the leading rusher because obviously Sterry Codrington, second in the league, and the way they structured their offense, he ended up being their leading rusher by yardage. Trey Robinson went on like a 13-game streak from season to season, scoring a touchdown in every game for BIC, and became, on a team that still had courage on the roster, the number one running back for BIC. And that says to me, that speaks volumes to just the dedication to doing the right thing that Trey was committed to in making the switch, but also the kind of humility it takes for a player with the mentality that Trey has to just be a role player until it was his turn. And then he evolved into not only the feature running back, but one of the major offensive weapons that BIC used on a consistent basis. And after that 3-hour Corey Hammond-like explanation, our number 19 player of the 2025 season.
It ain't over yet.
No, I know. For me, and I'm sure you guys have plenty to say. But I do apologize for going so long. But it's just a really interesting story for Trey. and it culminates with a championship in July and him here in November making our list so high.
Well, I just really think that he really became a big key piece, and he was a guy that got a lot of key first downs for BIC in this championship run, specifically the game against Siquid in the Final Four to get to the championship game, as he was the guy that had key runs to keep drives alive, and eventually had the game clinching touchdown for BIC that put the BIC in the title game in Vegas, with BIC basically a lot of their guys playing two-way football because they didn't travel with their full-fledged roster. But again, in the title game, again, I mean, not exactly the big flashy plays, but getting those tough yards to keep the clock moving, to keep the clock grinding, to keep the ball out of the Insomniacs' hands. Trey Robinson played a huge part in giving the Trenton BIC their third overall A7FL championship.
Well, and I will go a little bit further. I mean, look, I don't want to knock courage. That's not my point on what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is the other dynamics that Trey gives BIC when he's in the backfield. And I'm not saying that, Courage couldn't do this, but I just noticed that I don't know what it was with Sterry, where he seemed very comfortable with Trey being behind him, and also picking up blocks when you had a guy come free on the offensive or the defensive line, and also swing passes out of the backfield. It seemed like there was a lot of understanding between the two of them. They looked like they understood each other in a big way, and that really helped BIC get to the championship game and eventually win the championship game. I think that those pieces are saying a lot, and I'm echoing, Corey, what you were saying. He took his time and gained his team's trust, and now he has it.
Yeah, and it's it's a story that I think a lot of players in our league specifically, but in any level of football, there's a lot of ways to be an important part of your team. But I think the most important way to compete in this sport is by being ready to just be a football player for your team. And when they ask you to do something, especially in the A7FL, where a lot of positions are kind of amorphous, right? We don't really have safeties and linebackers. We just kind of have guys that can do both of the things that are necessary. We don't really have, tight ends and fullbacks, but we do have guys that are big enough to play offensive line and catch the ball. And then we have guys like, Trey Robinson. RTC is the guy that this falls under. And a lot of the guys that we put in that athletes list, if you know how to play this game, there's a way that if you're good enough that you can get on the field and kind of add to your team's depth and add to your team's ability to win games. And if you're doing that, especially if you're being unselfish and, maybe not being out of position, but maybe being in a situation where it's, unfamiliar. If you're able to do that, you're proving even more that you're the baller that everybody claims to be than the guy that can only play the one position, the one way with the one system, right? Like my fat ass. But for Trey to be one of the best quarterbacks in this league at a certain point, now he's considered, if not because he was the league leader in yards as a rusher, as a running back, excluding the quarterbacks. I've also seen him play defensive line.
Defensive line, yep,
Linebacker,
and linebacker.
Right. This is a great football player. There's no mystery why he's been in and around professional rosters basically most of his adult life, and at least for this season,
yeah,
he's able to go across country and raise the trophy once again for a different team, against his former team that got revenge against him, maybe some would say. But at least at this moment, he's sitting pretty number 19 on our list, and a two-time A7FL champ. I think technically the first championship was Town Beef, so it doesn't count.
Well, unless you want to talk about championship that he won during our fall brawl. But anyway, moving on. Corey, if you, I know you're muted, but if you want to do
Number
your thing.
18.
So number 18 is one Chris Cunningham from the Insomniacs. Chris is, I don't even know the correct verbiage to use with Chris, because he is one of those guys who has, when you talk about an NFL player, you talk about his motor, and that's this guy through and through. His motor never stops. Dub and I had a chance to call a game that he was playing in, tackle football, padded. It was the police versus the firefighters.
Yes.
And even in that game, this guy's motor never freaking turned off. I mean, he was constantly on it. And when you have outside rushers like the Insomniacs do, and you've got a guy that is blowing up the middle the way Mr. Chris Cunningham does, it's like, dude, your edge rushers are having a field day, because basically the quarterback has no place to go except at them. And as long as they can beat them to the outside, these guys are feasting. And you look at players in the NFL and they say all these defensive tackles, they don't get a whole lot of sacks. Aaron, who am I trying to think of that was a big defensive sack guy, or defensive tackle sack guy?
Aaron Donald,
thank you. That was one of those guys that was relentless as well. But he got his sacks from the middle of the defensive line. Usually you don't see that. And these guys are very underrated because they don't get the pub they deserve for what they're able to do in the middle of that offensive line. And Chris Cunningham is one of those guys.
Yeah, and the way the defensive line is set up, in my opinion, for the Insomniacs, is their pass rushing defensive ends. We already talked about Moses Smith last week, the rookie, breakout year. I think it was the sack leader for the team. But he wasn't the only guy that offensive lines had to worry about. You had Mouth McWilliams making a return back from injury, definitely effective and looked like he was returning to the form that we were used to. We can't ever forget about A.J. McQuaig, and although the last 2 years he's been left off these lists because there's been so much depth on his own team, and maybe the attention that he gets because of the type of unique talent that he is, but also RTC, right? There was tons of depth for the Insomniacs at that defensive end position. And when they went with that three-man front alignment, it was Cunningham that was responsible for the middle of the field and the middle of the offensive line. And what I saw, guys, especially in the championship game, is that of the defensive linemen that were facing off against BIC, the one that was most consistently in Sterry Codrington's face, and to be clear, we just mentioned the guy, right before, in my opinion, the guy that completely shut down BIC's running game when they went to a more traditional handoff to the running back type of play, to me, what I saw, at least, was Chris Cunningham almost on his own, getting off every block immediately and then causing havoc in the backfield. And although he did not, as far as I could tell, he did not actually finish any play with a sack.
No.
But all of the players, if people want to do the pause thing, I'm pretty sure he never didn't have one, just like on his person. But I digress. But he never got to Sterry. But what he was doing is constantly putting pressure on the middle of the field, so that Sterry either had to, a lot of times, make a quicker decision and get the ball out of there, or react to the quick pressure, forcing him left or right. And as a left-handed quarterback, when you force him right, he's really
More
not as
difficult to
dangerous.
throw. Yeah.
Well, and to me, of the things that Sterry Codrington can and cannot do, the one thing that I haven't seen him that I've seen a lot of these other mobile quarterbacks do is roll away from his throwing arm and still make that perfect throw downfield. Now, I mean, ask the teams that played Sterry Codrington this year if he was adequate enough to beat them. They might lie, but the truthful answer is yes, he was definitely more than adequate enough to beat them. But for what Chris Cunningham can do at the defensive tackle position, he may not get the stats, and he kind of almost reminds me of the way that he shows up on the stat sheet, like an Isaac Negron, who, again, somehow at defensive tackle led the league in sacks this year. Chris Cunningham's impact isn't limited to what he ends up putting on the stat sheet because he's such an impactful player in the middle of the field that BIC could not run the ball. And they have a really good offensive line. They have 2 offensive linemen in the top 7, and they have a running back that was number 19 on the total list and number 2 on the running back list. Chris Cunningham said, "Fuck you" to all of that, just to be frank and excuse my French. And I got to tell you, in the
You're not wrong.
the 2 games that I saw him play, not just on the film but in person, the 2 championship games, of the defensive linemen of the Insomniacs that have all impressed me. I said earlier on the show in 2023, my defensive player of the year was AJ
Yeah.
McQuaig, a current defensive lineman for the Insomniacs. In those
Sometimes
2
the forgotten
championship games,
man.
well, recently, I guess. I mean, the reason he's forgotten in these lists is because the teams that face him do not forget about him. To be clear,
Very factual statement.
but I'll say this: of those guys that I saw in person in those 2 championship games, the guy that jumped off the screen and was immediately in my mind, wow, that guy's a guy I would not want to face. It's Chris Cunningham. And, I will be honest, before the championship game last year, the Insomniacs win, I looked at him like probably a lot of, football players look at him. It's like, oh, look at this big white guy. Not impressed.
Yeah, you better pay attention to that big white guy.
Yeah, well, you put on the film for a couple of plays, he's already somewhere around the ball making a play, making it known that he's not just another one of those guys you put in there.
No.
Beast on the field, but a very humble man off the field.
Very much so.
Back when we were in the studios, it was him, Big West, and actually Big Ooster Science. Those 3 guys gave us one of our greatest interviews ever in the ball. But I mean, just you're caught by his size because you're thinking, and we've said this about Kenny Mack, we've said this about Josiah Sal, we've said this about Dave Valley, we've said this about
Lost you for a sec there, Dub.
fast and moving this, elusively. It's like it's almost unfair.
Well, and you really can, and this is a shout out to Jessica Maloof, by the way. This is definitely a shout out to Jessica Maloof and her comments. But really, when it comes to Chris Cunningham, you can guarantee 6, 7 tackles a game. 6, 7.
Really?
Got it? All right. Is that funny? You guys like it? Huh?
No, not really. Because what
Jessica
6,
Maloof,
7 stands for, I don't appreciate. But anyway,
what does it? It doesn't really stand for anything. My kids told me it's about 7, 8, 9.
No.
Listen to
the song.
South Park. Oh, there's a song.
Listen to the song.
I don't know. Whatever.
There's a song by a rapper, and 6, 7 is not exactly something you want to repeat. Anyway, going on.
I'm going based off of the South Park episode. I don't know if we should repeat anything from those episodes either, personally. But
I would agree.
How would you like, Mr. Gasson?
No, I think it's like no. The more recently, I think the more accurate catchphrase from this year's season of South Park is "Come on, guy."
What?
Come on, guy.
That too.
Oh, okay. I don't watch South Park, so.
Well, the character who says that now is
high school.
The character who says that now is no longer Saddam Hussein. It's his stand-in for the current times we live in.
Nice. I would say I guess I need to catch up on my South Park, but
Come out, yeah.
I wouldn't be telling the truth.
Well, somebody impregnated Sainton. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Ew.
Well, if you
That's
think that's gross, you should see what that same character did to the vice president last week.
Jeez.
Oh Lord.
All right, let's pull it back on the rails there. We're getting a little too far off. So Chris Cunningham is our number 18 in the top 50.
Number 17.
He's very
Number
manly.
17 is one Mr. Kevin White.
Now, I think a lot of people listening to this would be like, who the hell is Kevin White? Which is fair.
I sure am.
I think that's fair because
what I did.
When you look at, and this is kind of like my whole thing, but when you look at the BIC roster, he's not a name that's going to pop out. There's tons of guys that have more name recognition, guys that you probably have seen in clips or full games make the plays that you would expect to be number 17 on this list. But I think it's interesting to have Cunningham and White right next to each other because they're almost carbon copies of the way that they affect the game. Now they're not the exact same athlete. Kevin White came into this league, I think, about 5 years ago, and he was the rookie at our combine that year that stood out as the best player. Now there was a guy that got a 4.45 40 time. Kevin White was more of a tight end, wide receiver, running back, defensive lineman, linebacker, kind of like, freak of nature, chimera type deal. But when he first played for the Animals, he was a ball carrier, a playmaker, and that was as a rookie for the winless Animals. This was way before the Huff experiment. So fast forward a couple years, he's gone around the league, found a role as a defensive lineman. He's gained a little bit of adult weight. Now he's more in his grown man era. Some might say his napalm era. Shout outs to the K-pop Demon Hunters. I've got kids, guys. You probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but anyway. He's in his napalm era.
I got a 13-year-old.
There you go. So I always used to confuse Kevin, and I would say that his name was Devin. But my joke this year was Kevin, Trevin, Devin, don't matter. White's gonna get to the quarterback, right? It's like that meme. I don't know. I'm not good at explaining online culture, but you guys know where I'm talking.
I'm not either.
You know where I'm coming from. But the point is that the same way we talked about Chris Cunningham, Kevin White was just as impactful from the middle of the defensive line for BIC.
Damn it.
His lateral quickness is that of one of the running backs in this league. And when he's a 280-pound defensive lineman moving with that type of athleticism and ferociousness, he was erasing plays before they happened constantly. And he was not involved as much in the pass game, the pass defense game, because he was more of a first and second down defensive lineman for BIC. And look, let's be clear: a lot of the teams that play BIC were trying to run the ball as opposed to throw it.
Yeah, so he was basically their run stopper in the middle.
And he was doing it like a linebacker, a Ray Lewis linebacker, sideline to sideline with that kind of closing speed. But he was doing it from the defensive line position, which is kind of insane. And even better because it means that tackle's being made not in the second level of the defense, but either in the backfield.
You said he's 280?
I mean, I didn't weigh him. He could be more. But he's a big boy now. He's no longer the tweener that he used to be when he first came into the league as a rookie. He's put on the weight to be a legitimate defensive tackle in the A7FL. And with the rotation that they had, when he would get in, he would go into this beast mode where he's wasting all of his effort, all of his energy on just making sure that one play happens. And it seemed like every time he was in for BIC, he was the reason on defense that they were successful on that play. So to me, I think if you put the film on, it'll speak for itself. But just like our number 18 guy, number 17, Devin White, he's just a monstrous problem to deal with in the middle of the defense if you're an offensive lineman.
Oh yeah.
Well, you definitely need those, especially in A7FL. If you have a guy that is between Kevin White and Chris Cunningham, and they're able to, be that space eater, it makes it a lot easier for the guys around the edges.
So Kevin White, our number 17
Yep.
player of the year, which brings us to another BIC guy, number 16, Carnell Wachter. Fan of the show, probably in your DMs as you're listening to this right now.
Probably. And I'm surprised he's not in our DMs right now.
But for an offensive line that
And
go ahead,
has
Dub.
been a guest on the show. I'm just saying, he
Yes,
has
he
been a guest
has.
on the show as well.
I mean, I tell him to his face, he's literally the worst podcast guest to ever have. All he does is speak in cliches and smiles and laughs at the camera. So is it a decent time? Maybe on the sideline and in person, sure. But when we're trying to get the ins and outs of what makes BIC tick, the last person I'm going to for a thoughtful interview on
Is K
the
Black?
I'll tell that to his face. No,
Ricky,
but
Ricky being Ricky.
yeah, but in all seriousness, Dub, you guys, you and Chris were the ones who did the offensive line show, and
Yes.
K-Wack and I have had a long history of having battles in which, if I'm having a good game against his team, he makes that one or two plays that really change the game. I remember in the Salas tournament during COVID, he played for the Hawks. We were right in that game, and on 4th and goal, he blew through the offensive lineman that was trying to block him and got to me right before I could make an accurate throw to the tight end. It's a consistent thing with me. We were beating BIC as the Renegades 18-12. One of the more famous performances, if you're a really big time Corey Hammond fan, which there's like maybe 3 that aren't my family members. But in the 4th quarter, he made a play that forced an errant throw, and it was on a meaningful down. And I feel like after that play, we did. The BIC scored a 24 straight points to beat us. So, Ashante Worthy scored 18 of those points himself. But K-Wack is a baller at any position you put him at. But when you guys did the offensive lineman show, Dub, you said you had actually talked to Ken Stansbury to get his take. And a good reporter does this. And what you did was you found that in the opinion of the guy who runs BIC, he told you the best player offensive line wise for his team was Carnell Wachter. And look, you ask a good friend of mine, Big Rob, and he'll tell you that K-Wack holds on every play religiously, like it's like his job. But if he doesn't get
you ain't
caught,
trying if you ain't cheating.
listen, if he doesn't get caught on every play, that means that he just cares about his quarterback more than other offensive linemen that don't. And listen, I may sound like I'm obviously biased in this situation as a quarterback, but I'll take a guy that holds every play over a guy that misses every block. And
Of course.
to me, K-Wack not only is a good player, but we joke about it a lot. He's doing the work in the offseason to make sure roster-wise guys feel like they're invited to join BIC. And I clown on it. Others clown on it. But if you got Matt Riddick, Mark Bagway, and some of the names that they had roll up, Tyler Affa, you have some of the names they had roll up in big games for BIC. Look, we could talk about the rules on rosters and everything like that.
You know what though? K-Wack is one of those guys where I always tell him, you're not holding, you're just resizing jerseys.
Yeah, if you wanted to not get held by KWAC, you would literally buy a smaller jersey.
Yep.
But his impact is obvious in the output of his quarterback, right? If he's the best offensive lineman there, and he's the guy that also has caught touchdowns this year, releasing off of the offensive line as the eligible tight end, and he's considered by Kenny Stansbury as the best blocker, you better believe that he's going to be our number 16 player on our list.
He's just a very methodical football player, and that's the best term to describe KWAC. Very methodical.
Good at football, great at football, great at recruiting, terrible podcast guest, a viral but a very average dancer at best, right? He does that viral dance. They all like to do it. But if we're talking about KWAC on this list, it's his play and his recruiting that separates him. The cliches and the stiff dancing, not a part of this list, guys.
And his manliness.
Okay, so he is our
Which will bring
number
us, guys, to our
16.
number 15 player of the 2025 season.
Damn, my phone just shut off. Who's the number 15 player?
Oh, good job.
Robert Long, the rookie defensive back and league leader in interceptions from the Silk City Animals.
Yeah, I had to friggin' turn around as soon as I looked over, my phone shut off. So, and from my understanding, was he the one that had 4 picks in one game?
He had a lot. The recent clip going around of me throwing an interception was him. I don't remember 4 in one game, but I will say this: Big Rob Fabian, while I was in Indiana, he had already said that the long guy was a factor. And to me, I think the biggest difference in the Animals season, or their competitive level from last season to this past season, in which, just to be clear, the Animals in 2024, in their 2 playoff losses, a record, by the way, they allowed more than 70 points each game.
Yep.
Correct.
They got absolutely dismantled in 100,000-degree weather in Vegas this year. They only allowed 60, I believe.
Oh man, it wasn't 100,000 degrees. It was only 1,000 degrees.
Well, exactly. It was. You have to register it in Kelvin. There was only molten metal around the stadium.
Nothing was stop! Just because the devil was sitting in the stands watching the game, taking the sun rays.
Sunscreen on. The devil had.
He didn't need sunscreen.
But I think my point is, how much did the Insomniacs score against the Animals?
62, if I'm not mistaken.
And that was by far their season high. And I don't even know if we could say that Long was in the entire time in that game. I think he was out late in the second half. But for their team,
there was a lot of guys that were out late in the second half
absolutely.
of those games because of how hot it was and being dehydrated. I mean, the thing about it is, I was trying to tell the guys when they were coming out here, and this is just because of what you said about Vegas. When they were coming out to play, I tried to tell everybody, you know what? If you don't drink water before you get to the field, it's already too late.
Yeah, you're going to be dead.
You got to be hydrated, really well hydrated before you even get here, and before you get to the fields, and then just continue to hydrate no matter what. Even if you don't feel like you need it, continue to do it because it will happen quickly. Yeah, and you saw a lot of guys falling out because of that.
Yeah, and guys from Vegas even, it was so hot. But I think the reason I bring up the heat is not to diminish the play of the Insomniacs.
No.
But to kind of put in perspective, Robert Long and his presence in the defensive back position for the Animals, they went from a team that allowed approximately 40 points a game to a team that allowed approximately 20. And the other defensive ad that they made that I think was a big factor was Trey Baskerville. But having Long back there, being able to kind of play a little bit of a center field for the quarterbacks that were errantly throwing the ball downfield against the Animals, he made you pay with a turnover if you put it near his hands. And for a rookie to come on the scene and kind of, pop, and for Big Rob to almost immediately be like, this Long guy is a guy. I think that him being this high on the list is great for both the Animals himself, but look, the league could use a lot more guys like this.
No, he's not a Jag, which is what the league is looking for. Not just a guy, looking for players, and he is a player. And he wouldn't be on the list in the top 15 if he wasn't.
If the Animals won it all, which obviously they didn't, and I don't think they were that close this year. But if they were to, Long would be 3 or 4 or 5. He was that important for that Animals team. And I think the reason that he's 15 and not even higher, because he played great this year, is that there was just players that made more of an impact in more high-profile games. Because when you just look at the raw stats, he might be the defensive player of the year. It just so happens that there's guys that had flashier rookie performances on the defensive side of the ball for a team that made it further in the playoffs. So shout outs to Long. You're getting the rounds currently for the interception you had on the double move. I threw to my backup quarterback, the former quarterback for the Animals, that was just trying to, he wanted to beat the Animals so bad. So I was like, all right, go do a double move. Yeah, he was really convinced he would get behind Robert Long. He didn't even get in frame. So bad pass on my part, but great interception against me, and a great player, very deserving of our number 15 ranking that we've got him here in our top 50.
Oh yeah.
And now we move on to number
14.
And the number 14 player is one Ashanti Worthy, wide receiver.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
A great nickname.
Let's put into perspective, and I'll let you keep going, Chris, because I've talked too much already on this show, which is probably par for the course. But Ashanti is number 14 on our top 50. Just a reminder, this is how great the wide receivers were this year. He was our number 6 wide receiver. So he's 14 out of the 50, but he was 6 out of the 7 in his position.
Well, I mean, when you look at some of the players that he was up against, and I'm not going to do that to him. We're going to leave that part of it out. And what I'm going to say is Ashanti Worthy is one of my 4 wide receivers that if I was starting a team and I could just pick them, I have 4 of them that would be on my squad, and he would definitely be one of them. And Ashanti Worthy is one of those guys that gives you pretty much everything. And his route running ability is really, really good. His return ability and putting his team in positions to flip a field, or better yet, just
status.
And just have a wherever you think you can put him on the field as far as a wide receiver. I don't care if it's X, Y, or Z. He is going to go make a play. And he is a very tough individual to cover. And if you have him and others, in this case, some of his teammates were incredible as well. And that's why when you break down Ashanti Worthy's game, and you're watching his game, he is definitely somebody you need to know where he is on the field at all times, because he is one of the players in this top, we'll say the top 14, as we're saying, that can take a pass to the house at any given time. So you definitely have to know where this young man is all the time as a defense.
And if you look at his stats this year, Chris, Dub, you could put his stats for, I think, and I'm not going to go into the thing, but about 750 yards in the air. I think he had about 1,000 as a returner. One of the league leaders in touchdowns. Obviously, a playmaker. Most years, he's in the MVP conversation.
Yes.
With
If it
his
wasn't
impact,
for
with
somebody
his
else on the
reputation.
team that was.
Exactly. So with his impact, with his reputation, with the excitement that his highlight plays bring our fans, Ashanti Worthy is Hollywood in every sense of the word. I think that him being this high on the list, but also so far behind his teammate, just goes to show how much of a monster he really is. Because Ashante Worthy this year was not the go-to receiver for BIC.
No, he wasn't.
However, he was still probably the number one player on the field that when you're a defensive coordinator or you're a defensive back or captain on the field, if you don't know where he is and how you're playing defense on him, you likely on that play gave up a big play, a first down, or a touchdown. And where the rest of the wide receivers that we have, there's a David Clark who's kind of just the prototype. If you put into AI, build me a human wide receiver, you might get a David Clark, right? For the intangible guy, like an Eric Schuford, where he's doing all of the little things that help his team win, and oh, by the way,
Yeah, but
he's still the
I
go-to guy on third or
I
fourth
would
down.
just say, Corey, that I like the comparisons, but we probably should have waited.
Well, what I'm saying is, what you'll see, you'll see, right? And we will wait, but we won't. But what I'm saying is for a list of guys in front of Ashante, based on statistics or whatever the category we go by,
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about the actual performer, I don't think there's more of an explosive playmaker, right? We could talk about wide receivers. We could talk about this year specifically. But when we're talking about just who Ashante Worthy is in the A7FL, there's no more, stand up every time he has the ball, edge of your seat, USC, Reggie Bush type player, in my opinion, than Ashante Worthy. Because when he gets the ball in his hands, whether it's a 3-on-1 return, whether it's a quick screen, or whether it's a third down catch in which he has to climb a ladder on 3rd and 17 to make the play for his quarterback and his team in the championship game. When Ashante Worthy's involved in a play, it's exciting. And, I like our list. I like the other guys in front of him. But for a guy that was in our 6th tier, if he wasn't in the top 20, I think we would look at it and say that there was something wrong just by default. Because when you look at the field and he's on it, it's almost like your eyes can't stop wanting to see him do something football-wise. And whether it's his balance, his strength, his explosiveness, or the crazy moves that he puts people in that end up on YouTube Shorts, it's just a pleasure to be a part of his career and to watch him week in and week out. And look, we can make the comparisons as we're about to, but I'll let you guys go on Ashante, who is our number 14 player of the 2025 season.
Which brings us
Just
to the
tremendous
number.
skill.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, just tremendous skill, tremendous versatility. That's all you need to know about Hollywood.
That brings us to our number 13 player.
Number 13.
One Davick Clark from the Insomniacs. I think that there's a lot to be said about, certain players, and Davick is one of those that is another player that with the ball in his hand can do some extraordinary things, but he's also one of those guys that at any given time can take the ball to the house. and we saw that pretty much in the championship game with the screen pass that he did take to the house. He's got the speed, he's got the height, he's got the wiggle, he's got a lot of the intangibles that you look for in a wide receiver, and he's a big play guy that every time you need a big play in a game, he always seems to come through for that big play. And the when you see him and Scott, the quarterback for the Insomniacs, when they are not in sync, you see it. But it's amazing to me how quickly they can go to the sidelines, talk about it, and then come out the next series and be in sync. And the interesting piece about that is when Scott's looking for a big play, there's only 2 wide receivers on that team that I've seen him have so much confidence in, and one being David Clark.
And there's no better player, in my opinion, in this league to put on a fade route than David Clark. Now, there's certain guys that might be a little bit faster, but probably not, right? I think David Clark is clearly, if not the one of the fastest pure speed runners in the A7FL at that position.
Well, I
Maybe
think
a
at his
Savion
height, I think he
Cunningham,
ran a
maybe.
4.340.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's legit. It's not. Oh, he's tall. He's got long strides. No, he's legit
No,
fast.
it was a legit 4.3.
In the immortal words of Matt Ryan, he's David Clark might say of himself, "I'm fast as fuck, boy." And the other thing that he can do is because he's such a
Call himself
threat.
Timothy.
Well, that's a lot of guys call themselves it's him, Jimmy, or Himothy, or Heemers. There's a whole team of Heems. There's a whole team of Heems, right? But now for Davik, the clinic that he put on in both championships where he was featured at wide receiver. I think the Insomniacs Nightcrawlers Championship was a lot of David Clark showing exactly who he is. But
Absolutely.
even this BIC championship, he had, I think, 4 touchdowns.
For him, yeah.
And what? 4 in a championship game? Yeah, that's why he's on this list. And I think he would be higher if he played in every single one of the Insomniacs games. I think he would be higher if he didn't share reps as the jump ball guy with William Carswell. But I think that when it just comes down to it, the pure speed, the height, and that ability with the ball in his hand on those rocket screens to get to full speed so that it doesn't just turn into a big play, it's a touchdown. I mean, he only had, I think, guys, 18 catches on the season. But he far and
I
away
think he might have had 18 catches, but I think 10 of them were touchdowns.
700 something yards. He was like 3rd or 4th, I think, in total yards.
Yep.
But he had by far and away, by a huge margin, the yards per reception.
Yeah,
He's
we're
the
off the chart.
definition of a big play threat. And
Big time.
I think, for David
In
Clark,
big time games.
well, for David Clark to be and Ashante Worthy to be this low on the list, it shows that they were sharing reps. Because if you put either of those guys on their own team and they became the focal point of an offense, we're talking about Kason Campbell type numbers. Because these guys are more than capable, ability wise, to do whatever they want on an A7FL field. And even though it was a limited amount of time this year, David Clark made one hell of an impact for the Insomniacs.
There you go.
Oh, yes.
And that's why he is our number 13.
Which I think there's a theme, guys. And
I think
whoever
so.
made this list might have even done this on purpose. Number 12. 12.
One, Eric Schuford Jr., Munch, fourth and Munchy, whatever you want to call him.
Devo Munch.
Yep. This is a player that is, when you watch him play, the thing that still comes back to my mind is watching him in the 2023, was it, championship game when he blocked basically 4 players by
Four
himself.
guys in a
Yeah,
league with
yeah.
7 players on. Yep.
I mean,
Half the team.
right?
Statistically, more than half.
Technically,
More than
over
half.
half. But when you see what he's able to do, and when you see the fact that him and Scott have such a rapport, that there's a reason we call him fourth and Munchie. I mean, when it's fourth down, Scott's looking for him, and they're connecting. And if you happen to be able to stop that, hey, more power to you. But I seem to remember last year's championship, not this year's, last year's championship with BIC. They blew the whistle because they thought he was out of bounds. And when they
Which he wasn't.
replayed it, he was not out of bounds, and
He
that should
was
have been a
not.
touchdown.
Yeah,
So
I was right there.
Yeah, he was.
what I'm
I was
saying
right
is,
there.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying
that's
is
one
that
that I will say.
he,
I disagreed with Derek on that interception that he was saying was pass interference, but I do agree that I think the whistle was definitely blown early on Munchie. That might have been the play of the game if it stood.
it would have been. It would have
Um,
been the play of the game, because that was what I'm talking about. That was a fourth down play.
yeah, it was
If
like 4th and forever too, right?
Yes, and if he wouldn't, and the thing about it is, he wouldn't have just got the first down. He would have gotten a touchdown.
He had daylight.
So I mean, when you think about these things, it's these players. As much as I want to sit back and watch, some of these players that everybody talks about in the NFL, some of these players in the A7FL, Ashanti, Davik, Shuford, these guys are like watching some of the wide receivers in the NFL with their capabilities and what they're able to do. So it is they are games worth watching. I'll just leave it at that. If you are listening to us and you haven't watched an A7FL game, something's wrong with you. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, we all.
Go ahead, Dub. I'll go after.
I'm just saying we always talk about versatility and whatever you need me to do to help win. That is the epitome of one Eric Schuffer Jr. One game he'll play quarterback. The other game he'll be on the defensive end. One game he'll play in the secondary. Of course, we know what he can do as as a receiver.
Or running
There are
back.
times, or running back. There are times where he'll take the mantle and play quarterback, giving Scooter a chance to coach them up. It's just anything he can do, and he will not be scared to remind you that you know I am him, and this is our stuff. And as you like to say, make sure get some better friends.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, I stopped doing the friends thing because, like, if I was truly the asshole that I should be or could be, I would talk about the friends thing now that it's not right. Like they lost, so I could just be doing that every time. I think that would be just disingenuous and also not accurate. But I think the question some might have if they just looked at Shuford's numbers, which are still in the top 10 for wide receivers, but not even better than the guys that we just mentioned in the past 2 places. So how does he then get ranked above them? And I think Dub kind of started to answer that for me. For a guy that is as talented and is as absolute when Scooter gets him the ball, it's not just his ability with the ball in his hands that makes him one of the most valuable players in the league. I think what makes him even more infinitely valuable are all of those other things that he does. And when you have a guy that can score the touchdown that you need to win or convert the fourth down by catching it at the position that he's most skilled at, and then also you mentioned that he blocks 4 people on a fourth down run for his teammate that wins the championship in 2023. He
Or you gotta
plays
have it.
he plays safety on the last play of the game against BIC with only a 2-point lead and makes the interception. And guys, at times the best defensive plays that I saw as tackles in the open field on BIC players, it wasn't the list of names that we already put on defense that won defensive player of the year, defensive rookie of the year, number I think 18 and 20 whatever on our list, right? It wasn't those defensive players that were obviously really talented and deserving. It was their wide receiver going in and making big plays as a linebacker in the championship game. And I think when we break down what an athlete is, yeah, Munch would be that definition of ATH, but he's also just that impactful at his natural position at wide receiver. So for me, having him above guys that have more yards than him, guys that just in general, I think you would think that when you put David Clark next to Eric Shuford without knowing anything about either of them, you know, a guy with no understanding might just take Davick because he has the better 40 time and he's taller. But if you ask Scott Hamilton on 4th and 12 who he's throwing the ball to, I think almost 100 times out of 100, if all else is equal, he's going to his go-to guy. And that's why, in my opinion, it's clear that he should be number 12.
Yep.
But also specifically in front of those other guys, specifically this year, even though statistically he didn't have as many yards or touchdowns, I think he was just as important, if not more, because of all the things that we just said that he brings to the Insomniacs.
Love the explanation. And not being facetious. Love the explanation.
Good. And listen, it's actually very famous to those who know how consistently we go back and forth with each other. But the one thing that I will never say about him is anything negative about his ability to play this game, because it absolutely is unimpeachable, unlike other things. Which brings us to, guys, our final name of the night, because I think rightfully so, Dub wants to do a full top 10.
Yes.
Next week, likely.
Either next week or the week after, one of the two.
Which brings us to, again, a theme here, guys. Our number 11 player of the 2025 season and our last player of the night.
Dub, do the honors. Okay, maybe not.
All right, I'll do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Manny Diaz, wide receiver, Silk City Animals.
But for how long?
That's
the question.
That's guys, just a 14, 13, 12, and 11 are our wide receivers. And just to put into perspective, that is 6, 5, 4, and 3 on our top 7 at that position as well.
And if you haven't caught on,
shout out to K-Wag. K-Wag making friends. That's what he's doing in everyone's DMs. He's trying to listen to Munch and make some better friends.
I guess so.
And he also says that's my dog about Manny Diaz in 2025 at least was a Silk City Animal. Maybe we'll talk about that in a second. But all right, so we did the whole thing where we said the stats don't matter, right?
Correct.
About Shuford.
Correct.
Yeah, well, then you look at what Manny Diaz did, and you're like,
and you're like, oh, that's why he's at number 11. Okay.
And if it wasn't for number 2 and number 1 on our wide receivers list, and how, and excuse my French, I think this is a French word, how fucking insane they went this year. Manny Diaz might have set records as a wide receiver and the go-to target deep threat for David Tender this year. For a team that did better this season than last, it was interesting to see Quani Morgan kind of take a step back. And not that Tender didn't play well, but you know, towards the end of the season with the injuries, he just wasn't the same. So he in essence, we could say, little bit of a step back from his rookie season last year.
Well, and you would be telling the truth, but the fact of the matter is when you have
Manny,
when you have
not
Manny,
a step back.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
I think that Tender, we've talked about this in the past with you being a quarterback, me being a receiver. Every quarterback has their security blanket. And I think Manny Diaz was that for David Tender. And you could see in the games that they played last year, you could see when when Tender needed a big play, he was looking for Manny, period. I don't care what anybody says. I watched on some of those games where he found him. He threw the ball up knowing that Manny was going to go up and get it for him. So I can't say anything negative about the two of them, except if what we hear is going to happen, it's a shame, because I think that Diaz and Tender together are better than Diaz and Tender apart.
Well, especially if we really break it down granularly to what moving teams means. But I do want to talk about that, because I think it's very important to kind of contextualize like what all this means within the greater context of what it means next year. But just sticking to this year that just passed.
Yes.
We're talking about a guy who, like you said, he was David Tender's security blanket. And I don't know what quarterbacks are listening, but when you have a security blanket, it's your guy you throw to in like those comfort situations, right? Like, let's say there's pressure or third and whatever, right? You know, the situations in which a Scooter Hamilton will find an Eric Schuford, right? And
But
we
that's how
talked
Tender
about,
found Manny, was the same way.
well, and Manny Diaz, very similar to Davik, is a big play guy, but being the security blanket for a guy, and also averaging 26 yards per reception, he was second in the league with 13 touchdowns this year. He actually broke the single game record for most reception touchdowns in a game, to then later be broke, I think, in the same game by Kason Campbell. Manny Diaz, for sure, is, he's third on this list of the guys who actually made an impact. He's third in the average yards per catch, behind Davik Clark and Zay Gonzalez, who was a teammate, which was the tight end, I believe. But he also had in his 26 receptions, guys, 13 of those went for scores. So we're talking about a go-to guy that's very efficient. And if he's catching the ball, there's a 50% shot that he's putting up points on the scoreboard for you. And look, Kason Campbell had 54 catches for 1,047 yards. Ashante Worthy had 39 catches for the exact same amount of yards that Manny Diaz did on his 26, for 676 yards. My question is, now that we've praised Manny Diaz, and shout outs to K-Wack in the chat talking about it, mentioning it, letting us know the work he's doing for next season already.
Yeah, we're going to have to call it a super team.
If you got Kason Campbell, Ashante Worthy, and they're making up a total of 1,700 yards of Sterry Codrington's 2,400, is there enough football for BIC to have a Manny Diaz join their roster and put up numbers in the same stratosphere as he did for the Animals? And I think that's the question that we need to ask. Is Manny Diaz, who was the number one on his team, is he even the number two on his new team?
Well, Corey, like you said, if you want to go someplace and be somebody, sometimes you got to find another team. Manny Diaz did. Now he's going back. So even though that is a question for us to ask, it's not going to be one that I answer. Okay. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you have a falling out with one team, you go back to an old team, so be it. It is what it is. It is up to BIC. It is up to Sterry. It is up to all these guys to figure out how to spread the ball around to keep these guys happy. And that's what's going to come down to the bottom line, because we know that guys can get unhappy if they're not seeing the ball come their way.
Well, and
true, very true.
And has BIC ever repeated as champions?
They have not.
No,
That's
they have
the one
not.
thing they haven't done.
And one of the reasons I think that might be is because when these types of things happen, right? Just look at the Mark Bagway of it all last year. When Mark Bagway showed up for BIC and he hadn't been there for most of the weeks that they had played together, it's not as natural a fit as you might assume. Like, let's say, like you're playing fantasy football where they're just, what's their stats, or you're playing like a Madden thing where you're just putting them in and he's a
Well,
computer simulation.
yeah, but I think that everybody, and I'm not trying to slight what you're saying. I think that everybody who has played football, we've seen the the proverbial superstars go to teams and it not work out because the chemistry just isn't there,
And that
and
is, yeah. And of all
that
the
is the bigger piece.
team sports, I think the sport with the most importance, focused around, how the team plays with each other, like chemistry. I mean, you can make the argument for basketball, but then why did super teams work? You can make the argument maybe for soccer because, or hockey, I guess. I don't know. But in football, you can add a guy like Odell Beckham. You're not adding his stat total from the previous year, right? Because he has to work within the offense, he has to work within the existing structure of the scheme, and he has to also find his position hierarchically, which is a tough word to sometimes say, in the quarterback's go-to list. And look, Manny Diaz is one talented football player, and he can definitely add something to BIC. But on a roster last year that also had Matt Riddick and Mark Bagway, I don't know how much more you can add to BIC when that's the depth at that position.
Well, the bigger
So,
question is Mark Bagway coming back to BIC.
Another good
well,
question.
if he is, he's from Florida, likely a limited role. Same thing for Matt Riddick, who is a veteran, which, is what it is. But is Manny Diaz willing to play the Trey Robinson type of role, going to a team that's kind of already
Well,
established and finding his way?
you know
Or is
what,
he going to be just.
and again, I'm not trying to knock it, but we're trying to, and I just feel like we're getting off here on a tangent with the fact of Manny Diaz. Look, he's the number 11 player. That's what we should be talking about and hyping up,
Yo,
not
absolutely.
where he's going and what might wind up happening. I think that we can definitely talk about that down the road, but he's our number 11 player of our top 50 for a reason, and I think that's what we should be talking about. I think sometimes we tend to go a different direction because we know what's going on behind the scenes, but I really think we should save that for another time because, like I said, he's our top 10. Let's give him his due because I mean the guy was an outstanding wide receiver over
Yeah.
this past year, and
But
to beat out guys like Ashanti Worthy, Davik Clark, and Eric Schuford Jr. is saying something. I mean, this kid was really a really good player for his team, and he is going to be. I will put it this way, in a way that I'm not going to talk about the future. I'm talking about the past. I really think that a David Tender and the Animals are going to miss his ability to play the way he was playing with David Tender, and that's what I want to look at. I'm not. I don't. And no knock against K-Wack or anybody else. I don't care about what he's going to be with BIC next year. I don't. We're not there
Yeah.
yet. Let's talk
Yes.
about what he did. What he did in with the Animals and the type of player that he was, because like I said, he is the number 11 player on this list.
Yeah, and I think the only reason we're even hypothetically speculating about what he could do next year is because of how great he played this year in the role that he was in and how interesting, at least, right? And look, I agree with you, Chris, and I'll stop, throwing a a wet towel on the fucking praise that we should be giving the guy. And rightfully so, right? So I do agree with you there, Chris, and I'll jump off this point. But I think the only reason it's brought up is because of how great this year was in the role for the team that he was on with the relationship that he had with the quarterback. And it just becomes, and this is a word that I think could be replaced with a lot of other words that are more provocative. But it is certainly interesting to see that with this much of a breakout season for such a talented player in a system that looked to be perfect for him with one of the best quarterbacks in the league. There's not a lot of guys that you can go to, or not a lot of teams that you can go to and count on the accurate delivery of the football like you get if you were playing with David Tender. And it's just, like I said, you can replace this word with a lot of other more provocative words, but it's at least interesting, as great as Manny Diaz was this year, that the other things have transpired afterwards. So look, let's focus on the past, because this is a reflection show. But the only reason I even brought it up, and not just because K-Wack is involved, but shout outs to our what is he, number 19? I just mumbled there because I don't remember. I have the stats up, not the list. I'm gonna go back to the list.
Hold
Sorry,
on.
K-Wack, I got you. But
Number 16.
Number 16 player, but also one of our top commenters. Shout outs to my guy. But yeah, I think that's why it's interesting to talk about. The only reason I wanted to take away from the luster, and look, if it's bothering you too much, Chris, I agree.
It's not
with
that
you,
it's
but
bothering me. I
no, I'm
just
just
think
joking. I'm
that
just
when
making a
we're
joke. I know it's not actually.
yeah, no, it's not
But
bothering
if
me. It's just when we got guys that are in the top list, we should be giving
yeah, we
them
should give
their
them just Chris.
flowers, not taking away from them their decision on where they might be going to play.
Well,
next season.
I mean, listen, everybody's right when they call me a certified hater. I just think I'm just in that point in my career. But I will explain why I'm such a hater is because I'm jealous. I'm just jealous. Look at that. It's just my jealousy coming out. So I apologize for my jealousy. But anyway, he is our number 11 player for good reason.
Yes, he is. And on that note, I mean, I got something for you guys to think about, because I know that this is, with 3 minutes left, we go into basically our final thoughts. But I've got something for you guys that I've been thinking about, and whether or not we have a show next Wednesday, and if we postpone it until the first week of December, so be it. But something to think about for this next coming season. Last season, when I say that, 2024, it was the running backs. This season, it was the quarterbacks and wide receivers. What do you guys think it'll be next season? Who is going to have, or what position is going to have the breakout year that we've seen the wide receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs have over the past two? Not for an answer now, just for something for you guys to think about, that we should have a discussion
I'm ready.
about.
I'm ready to take. Look, so I think if 2024 was a year of running backs.
Yep. 2025 was quarterbacks and wide receivers.
To be fair, Chris, I think there was still a limited number of running backs that were as good as RTC, but RTC was just so good that I think it's easy to give it to him. I think 2023 was like Florida's year, because they're gone, so I'll just throw them something, I guess.
I think 2023 was kind of the year of the team, because it was the teams that were making the plays.
Well,
that's why I'm saying
Bagway and Logo Davis kind of stole the show, where the Insomniacs were the best team. The players that kind of had those breakout, like, ridiculous performances in essence were those guys. That's maybe a hyperbole, but the thing about the Insomniacs, which is great, but also kind of hurts them with the attention market of the A7FL, is that they're so deep that there's an RTC and a Scooter, but then even when you look at the wide receiver position, there's guys like number 86.
Well, before and I'm sorry, I'm just watching Dub before he has to go.
Yeah,
Dub,
go ahead.
What's your final thought?
Love you all. Thank you for watching. Good night.
I kind of figured, because you got to go.
Yeah, he's standing outside
All right, man.
He's ready to rock in. Yeah, so I mean, 86 was smooth for the Insomniacs, right? That's his name?
Yep. It was 80, not 86.
80. So one of the biggest plays in the first half of that 2023 game was the guy that wasn't. It's not like he's not good, but is just one of those depth guys that made the play that saved the end of the first half and scored that late touchdown. That's not your frontline David Clark or Eric Shuford play, right? And then you even go the MVP for Rob Quincy Burts, those interceptions.
Yep.
That's who the Insomniacs were. They were just a group of guys that whoever it was going to make the play when it mattered. And that kind of hurts them as far as the attention economy.
Hold on. The question that I had for us to, again, not to go into right now, or at the end of the show, but the question mark that I had is just, let's think about what position we've had 2024 running backs, 2025 wide receivers, quarterbacks. Who is going to show up and show out like those three positions have done over the past 2 seasons?
Well, it's a reactionary league, right? Football, a reactionary sport at least, and the A7 sometimes can be a reactionary league. So responding, how do you respond if you're trying to help out against both the quarterback and wide receiver? And this is where I'll go. There's a position that if you excel at and you have a bunch of them, you can completely shut down a quarterback and wide receiver at the same time with just one position.
Yep.
And it's not corner.
See
it's
again,
not corner.
Again,
it's not corner.
But it's not for us to answer now.
I'm just throwing it out there.
You go down the road to throw out some stuff to answer now. We're not answering this now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. My hint would be the position that I lean towards is not corner, because then you're not tackling anybody if the quarterback decides to run. But if you can get these guys to combat the players that we were just mentioning that were stood out for this year at those positions, it's one position, and I think it's a position that especially Vegas is starting to get a hang of, like what the type of guy that best excels at that position is. So that's something to look forward to.
Yes.
Next time.
And we'll finish our top 50 in the next 2 weeks. But folks, thank you very much for watching The Other Side of the Ball, show 161. We appreciate you guys and would love more input. Don't always think that you can't put stuff up like KWAC has been doing all throughout this whole show, and we appreciate them being on here. And if anybody else wants to join, man, come on, bring it. Make sure that we hear you, see you, and have your takes ready, and we will definitely listen and talk about them. So thank you all. In case we do not have a show for next week, I'd just like to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. You guys take care of each other because nobody else will. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm thankful as well, Chris. Thankful for this league, the people that are listening to this show, either right now or eventually during this week, all 30 of you. But I'm thankful for you, Chris, for dealing with my bullshit.
It's not bullshit, man. We like to talk. We like to talk football, man. We just sometimes get off the rails. Got to pull it back in.
Yeah, exactly. And then I am very thankful for the family that puts up with me. So if we do not get a chance to be thankful in live and on YouTube next week, I appreciate the opportunity to be thankful, and I am very. So, Chris, you could take us out.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.